What's happening, everyone? It's Wilson here, Wilson from Growth OK, and in this video, I want to quickly talk about the best follow-up subject lines for sending cold emails. We all know the importance of following up. We know that if you follow up with a prospect, you are most likely to get at least a 78% higher response rate compared to a normal email that you just sent out with the initial one. The more follow-ups you do, the better. I typically follow up until I get a response, whether that's a yes or no on a sales deal, or even if you're just looking for a job or looking to contact somebody, trying to network with somebody, it's very important to follow up. But that's not what this video is about. It's more about the best practices for sending follow-up subject lines and with a few examples. So we sent over 50,000 follow-up emails at Growth OK for ourselves as well as for our clients, and I've done it in my previous ventures. I've done a lot of cold emailing, and this is what I learned about follow-up email subject lines. So number one tip right here is including a recent discovery about the prospect will always increase your response rate, right? So what does that mean? It means that you should always do your research on the lead, on the prospect before you reach out to them. So how do I do it? What are the steps? What can I do? What are the most effective way? It doesn't take 30 minutes. It doesn't take an hour. It actually just takes a couple minutes, and this is what you can do. The first thing you do is that you go and check their LinkedIn profile, right? See if there's any updates. Maybe they just got a new job. That's something you can include in the subject line. Hey, Jessica, congrats on the new position as a sales, VP of sales, or whatever. So check their LinkedIn. Number two, check their Twitter. A lot of times they're tweeting about like their the new like podcast mentioned. Then that's something that you can put into the subject line, like, "Hey Jessica, I just saw that you were interviewed by this person on this podcast. I loved it." Number three, check their company or their personal blog. A lot of times the blog has some sort of announcement, like they just raised a new round of funding, and that's something that you can put in the subject line, like, "Hey Jessica, congrats on raising a Series A." Next thing is that you can do is just do a quick Google search. Type the name and their company name in Google. Most likely it will pop up. Something will pop up about them, and then you can probably find some news articles that you can mention in the follow-up subject line. And read the news, read their About Us page on the website and see if there's anything that you can find that's in common. For example, what if Jessica likes playing basketball and you like playing basketball as well? Then that's a perfect thing to add to your follow up subject line. Tip number two, always include the prospect's name in the subject line. So, an example of this would be like, "Hey, Jessica, would love to chat." Adding that personal touch is so important because a lot of times you don't want to just go like, "Hey, I run a social media management company." Instead, put this in, put their personal name, and it sounds a lot more personalized. It gets noticed a lot more when people are browsing through their email tabs. Another good example of a subject line would be like, "Hey, Jessica, I love your product." The whole goal of this is to make sure you include their name within the subject line. Or, "Hey, Jessica, saw that you made a tweet about Donald Trump." Something like that. Just make sure you include the name and have that personal touch. Tip number three, the more data points in the subject line, the better. So, what I mean is like Jessica is one data point, right? "Hey, Jessica," that's a personalized data point. You want to add more than one. The more the better. So, we tested two different subject lines, and these are the two that we tested. "Hey, Jessica, Growth OK," and the Jessica's company name, partnership inquiry. And then we tested the second one that said, "Hey, Jessica, Growth OK partnership inquiry." Just that, without the second data point of the company name. And guess what? The Hey name, Growth OK, and the company name, the one with two data points, we saw a 32% increase in response rate. Now, this isn't conversion, but it's a 32% increase. So just adding that second data point made that much of a difference. Now, I don't mean go wild and add like 9 or 10, but two, we find that is our sweet spot. So always try to include two. Tip number four, sound like a real human. I mean, we don't want to be reached out to and feel like we're talking to a robot, right? We want to be able to actually feel like we're actually talking to a human. So when you reach out to somebody, have a personalized touch and put in those data points and make yourself sound like a human. So think about it. Which one of these subject lines would you open? Growth OK, your number one lead source for quality leads. Or, hey Jessica, wanted to see if Growth OK might work for you. Come on, the first one sounds like you're an advertising company. We're not an advertising company, we're a lead generation company, and we want to build that relationship, we want to build that touch, and the first impression is very important. So include something personalized and don't sound like a robot, sound human. Tip number 5, examples of subject lines that actually work. Hey Jessica, trying to reconnect. These are for follow up. Remember, we don't want to put, hey Jessica, trying to reconnect for the initial email outreach, but this one will actually work for a follow up email. Or, hey Jessica, I love that speech you made on TechCrunch, right? So let's say you send out your first initial cold email, you introduce your product, but Jessica did not respond to you. So you did your research, you followed those steps from tip number 1, and then you saw that that she made a speech on TechCrunch, one of the new conferences made by TechCrunch. You watch the video, or you don't even have to watch the video, but then you include that in the follow up subject line, and that will most likely get not only an open but as well as a response. Or, hey Jessica, saw that you're friends with whoever the mutual friend is. Of course, you don't want to like BS when it comes to making up these stuff, but if you are really a mutual friend with them, saw that you're a friend. That personal touch makes a difference. People are most likely to respond to people that already know their friends. So to quickly summarize, include a mention. The more data points, the better. Always include the first name. Make it personalized. Sound like a human. Compliments work well, as well as the mutual connection thing that we just mentioned works really well. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, this is Wilson. You can follow me on Twitter at @iswilson8. If you're looking for highly qualified and targeted leads, check out growthok.com. Thanks.